Good morning, students. Good morning to all. And last day we have studied about the functions of the wholesalers, and also we have started the retailers. So today just we will go to study about the functions of the retailers. Okay, student. Just we will remind about the retail trade. So the retail trade or the retail traders deals with the distribution of goods in small quantities to the end consumers. So normally the retailers always purchasing some of the commodities from the wholesalers, and they will go to sales in the customers in the small quantities. The functions of retailers. Under the sum of headings, we can understand the functions of the retailers. First one is buying. A retailer buys a wide variety of goods from the different wholesalers after estimating the consumer's demand. So already we have studied. Normally the retailer always purchasing any of the commodities or any single line of the commodities from the different type of the manufacturer as a bulky, and they will go to sell the same commodities to the ultimate customers in the small quantities, because the retailers only knows all the details and the demand of about the customers. So after estimating the customers demand, the retailer will be sent the list of the demanded or needed commodities. So on the basis of the list, so the wholesaler will send or deliver the goods to the retailers. So he selects the best merchandise from each wholesalers and brings all the goods under one roof. So normally the retailers will purchasing the single line of product or the different line of the product manufactured by the different type of the manufacturers, and they will be keep in their store within the assembling order. So he performs the twin functions of buying and assembling of goods. Next is storage. A retailer maintains a ready stock of goods and displays them in the shop. So the storage capacity is one of the important character of the retailer, and he has to maintain a ready stock of goods in their shops, and not only that, they have to display them in the shops to the consumers as the impressed ways. Next, selling. The retailer sells the goods in small quantities according to the demand, taste, and preference of the consumers. He employs efficient methods of selling to increase his sales turnover. So the retailer always sells the goods in the small quantities according to the demand, taste, and preference of the consumers. So the retailer always knows about the taste and the preference of the consumers, and the different type of the consumers will be in the time of demand that also will be known by the retailers. So he employs efficient methods of selling to increase his sales turnover. So he has to take in the some of the efficient manner to selling their goods. Then only his sales turnover will be increased. Next, grading and packing. The retailer grades the goods which are not graded by the manufacturer and the wholesalers. So normally the manufacturer and the wholesalers will never doing this work on behalf of the retailer. So the retailer only has to doing this some of the work such as grading and packaging, because the wholesaler and the manufacturer will never have the time to doing this and all. So after purchasing the commodities from the wholesaler, the retailer only have to do these things. So he packs goods in small lots for the convenience of consumers. So many of the consumers will purchasing in many type of the commodities in small quantities. So on the basis of the purchasing power of consumers, the retailer had to arranging or grading and packing. Next, risk bearing. So retailer always keeps stock of goods in anticipation of demand and bears the risk of loss due to fire, theft, spoilage, price fluctuations, etc. The retailer always have to ready to take the risk bearing mentality. So the retailer always keep the stocks of goods in anticipation of demand. So the retailer will never know whenever the demand is going to increase among the consumers. So because of that, so he has to keep all the stocks in always in his shops. And not only that, he only has to take the BS of the risk of loss due to fire, theft, spoilage and price fluctuations. So such a reasons many of the risk may be arranged in these retailer shops. So all the risk only is handled by the retailers. Next, transportations. The retailers often carry goods from manufacturer to their retail outlets. So normally the transport facilities also is used by the retailer only if he want to purchasing often in a small quantities. So already we have studied the wholesaler always doing some of the transport facilities to the retailer, but the retailer has to purchasing as a reasonable level of commodities. Some of the retailers always or often he will going to meet the manufacturer or the wholesaler into buying the small quantities of amount. So in this case, the retailer only has to arranging the transportations. Next is finance. Some retailers grant credit facilities to his customers and provide the facilities of return or exchange of goods. So normally many of the consumers maybe as a monthly salaried peoples. So the monthly salaried peoples also will be required the credit basis. So in that time the retailer also has to ready to provide this all type of the commodities on the basis of credit systems. So door delivery and after sales service are provided by the retailers. So nowadays so many of the retailers are not doing like this work, but even though the door delivery services is provided by the retailer only, and not only that, the after sales services also is provided by the retailer. So if you are purchasing any of the commodities and after some of the days, if any of the problem is arranged in our commodities, the retailer only has to take these responsibilities. Next is services. Some of the services also rendered by the retailer to the manufacturer and the wholesaler and the consumers and even the government. So what are the services are provided by the retailer means? First one is the services to the manufacturer. How the retailer is providing or rendering the services to the manufacturer mean under the headings, so we can come to know. First, help in distributions. The retailer relieve the manufacturers and wholesalers of the burden of collecting and executing a large number of small orders from various consumers. So normally if there is no retailer, the consumers always want to approach as the wholesaler or the manufacturer. So the manufacturer and the wholesaler also will never get the interested to selling the goods in a small quantities directly to the customers. So the retailer only will be taking that responsibilities on behalf of the wholesaler and the manufacturer. So if the retailers are taking these responsibilities, the manufacturer and the wholesalers also will be relieve the retail organizations. So instead of that, the retailer will doing this work. Next, market informations. The retailer supply valuable information to wholesaler about changes in taste, preferences, fashions, etc. of the consumers. So the market information is also one of the important factor to increasing the productions and the wholesales also. But the wholesaler and the manufacturer also will never have the chance to understand about the taste and preference and the fashions of the consumers. We will never assume whenever the demand of the consumers and the taste and the preference of the consumer is going to change. But the retailer will knows very well about their consumers. So many of the consumers often will want to consume the different type of the commodities, and whenever the new type of the commodities arrival into the market, some type of the consumers want to consuming that commodity. So this all the information is understand and accepted by the retailer only, and it will be provided to the wholesaler and the manufacturer also. The manufacturer and the wholesaler also will be changed the productions on the basis of the taste and preference of the consumers. Next, large scale operations. The good manufacturers or wholesalers are freed from the trouble of making individual sales to the consumers in small quantities. So this enables them to operate on at relatively large scale and thereby fully concentrate on their other activities. So normally the retailers are ensuring the helps of the wholesaler and the manufacturers, because the manufacturer and the wholesaler will never get the interested to selling the commodities in the small quantities directly to the consumers, but the retailer can do it the same work. So when the retailers are taking these responsibilities on behalf of the wholesaler and the manufacturer, these both of them are focused on their core matter. Core matter means, so the manufacturer can focus on their production of the commodities, and the wholesaler also can have the possibilities to maintaining their wholesale organizations. Next, help in promotions. The retailers participate in the promotional activities carried by manufacturers and wholesalers, such as short-time offers, coupons, free gifts, sales contests, etc. Retailers help in promoting the sale of the products. Okay, the wholesalers and the manufacturer will never take the effort to absorb the consumers, but on behalf of them, so the retailer will doing this work. So in such a way, are making the advertisement and the coupons, the retailer can easily promote their sales activities. So when they are increasing their sales activities without having any of the effort, the wholesaler and the manufacturer also can easily improve and promote their manufacturing capacities. Next, personal attentions. The retailer is able to provide more personal attention to his customers than the wholesaler. He gives special services on the spot when the articles require minor repairs. So whenever the consumers are stuck with the repair of the commodities, the retailer will go to the spot and providing some of the services of repairing. And if any of the problems are raised, so the retailer itself will be complimented their services. Next is services to the consumers. How the retailer will helpful to the consumers means, first one is regular supply of goods. The retailer maintains a ready stock of various products of different manufacturers for a sale to consumers. This enables the buyers to buy products as and when needed. So the regular supply is the important for the maintaining of the consumers. So normally the consumers always want to get any of the commodities in whenever they want to be in needed. So the retailer also will have the chance to being a stock in their shops, and if he has the power to predict of the demanded, he will have some of the commodities in their shop as a stock, and the consumer also will have the chance to getting all type of the commodities throughout the year. Next, new product informations. The retailers provide important information about the new arrival of products through their personal selling efforts and effective display of products. So, arrival of the new product in the market is not knowing by the consumers, but on the way of the wholesaler, the retailer can get all the details about the new arrival of the commodities, and he also helpful to expose the details about the commodity to the consumers. The retailer also easily can get all the details about the consumers, sorry, the commodities. Next, credit facilities. Sometimes the retailers provide credit facilities to their customers and enable them to increase their level of consumption. So as we have studied already, so many of the consumers will be as a monthly earned people. So when they are earned or get salaried in monthly wise, they have to unable they will be unable to purchasing any of the commodities in the time of needed. So on the basis of credit system, the retailer also have to providing the commodities as credit. So the consumer also will never change the retail shop, and he will has some of the best approaches on the retailer's name. Next, wide selection. Sometimes the retailers provide the wide selection of the commodities. The retailers generally keep stock of variety of product of different manufacturers. This enables the consumer to make their choice out of wide selection of goods. So when we have arranged all the commodities in a good manner, so the consumer also can have the chance to select and preferring the different type of the manufacturer. So they can have to select as a wide area by the retailer. Next, some of the miscellaneous functions also provided by the retailer. What does that mean? The retailers provide free door delivery services to the customers. So as we have studied already, suppose if any of the unable patients are not able to carry their commodities, and if any of the businessmen, those who are involved in this busy schedule, for them the retailer will be provided their commodities in the name of door delivery. So they provide after sales service to customers. So after the sales, some of the services is provided by the retailer to the consumers. Next, they allow cash discount on their sales. Suppose if they are purchasing any of the commodities or more commodities above some amount, they will give some of the discount. Next, services to the government. So even the retailers are providing some of the services to the government. In which way the retailers rendering the service to the government mean? First one is the payment of tax. The retailer collects the general service tax and pay it to the government, which leads to increase in national income. So normally the sales tax. So the sales tax is also one of the indirect tax, but the government will never taking the effort to collecting the indirect taxes as directly to the customers or all the peoples. So it's on behalf of the government, the retailer only will be collect the sales tax from the customers and they will pay to the government. So when they are going to pay to the government, the national income also will be increased. Next, helps in improve the living standard. The retailers help the society to improve the standard of living of people and contribute to economic development of a country. So the retailer, when they are providing the financial facilities or on the credit facilities, the purchasing power of the people will be increased, and because of that, the living standard of the people also will be increased. So the to creating the increase of living standard is one of the functions of the government, but on behalf of the government, the retailers are doing this work. Next, implementation of government policies and acts. So the retailers implement the government policies and enforcing the act such as prohibition of tobacco product, prohibition of child labor, prohibition of adulterations considering common interest. So what are the policies is introduced by the government regarding the sales and the prohibitions of the goods? It was implemented only by the retailer, because most of the peoples will be have the approaches on the retailer only. So in this retailer shop, if the government, if the in this retailer shop, if they have some of the cautious notice, it will be reached the consumers. Next is some of the distinction between wholesaler and retailer. So what are the difference are there between the wholesaler and retailer? I mean, first one is in this link. If you are taking the link, so we can get the difference. The wholesaler serve as a link between the producers and the retailers. On the other hand, the retailer provides a link between the wholesalers and the consumers. The wholesaler is the first link, whereas the retailer is the last link in the chain of distribution of goods. So in this distribution of goods, the link is very much important, but the wholesalers are act as a link between the retailers and the manufacturer. And another one side, the retailer are acting as a link between the wholesaler and the consumers. Next, scale of operations. A wholesaler carries on business on a large scale and requires huge capital. But here a retailer on the other hand deals generally on a small scale and capital invested in retail trading relatively small. Next, range of goods. A wholesaler generally deals in one commodity, but a retailer deals in a large variety of goods and caters to the diverse needs of his end consumers. So on the basis of the consumers only, the retailer have to purchasing the commodities. But the wholesaler is not like that. So all the wholesaler will distribute the commodities only for the retailers. So the retailers also can have the possibilities to purchasing the commodities from the different type of the manufacturer or the wholesalers. Next, dealings. A wholesaler generally sells goods to retailers on credit. So, but the retailer usually sells goods to the end consumers on cash basis. Sometimes the retailer also will providing the credit system, but not to all. But mostly the retailer will sell the goods on the basis of cash. But the wholesaler will sell the goods to the retailer mostly on the basis of credit. Next, purpose of selling. A wholesaler sells good for reseller. On the other hand, the retailer sells good for ultimate consumers or use. So normally if you are seeing the retailer also providing or selling the goods only for the resales, because after purchasing the retailer from the wholesaler, the retailer also is going to sell the consumers. But the retailer is not like that. Retailer is going to purchasing the commodities only for the consumption of the consumers or the use. Next, sources of supply. A wholesaler buys goods from manufacturers and their agents in large quantities. On the other hand, a retailer generally buys goods from wholesaler and their agents in small quantities. So normally the wholesaler always will have the different or the number of the agents for purchasing or distributing the commodities to the retailer. But the retailer is not like that. He has never any agent to purchasing the commodities from the wholesaler. He only is going to purchase himself and he will be sell the goods to the ultimate consumers as directly. Next, location. A wholesaler operates his business in big commercial cities and expand his business to different areas. So normally if you are taking the location of the wholesales, the wholesaler always are undertaking his business in big commercial cities and expand his business to the different areas. So one wholesaler will have the many number of branches and he will expand their market also in the different areas. But in a retailer operates a smallest village and also big cities and locates his business in a particular places of area. So in the cities or maybe the villages, but the number of branches will be very less. So these 7 points are considered as a difference between the wholesaler and the retailer. Okay students, I think it's enough. If you have any doubt, please ask me. And just to study or just to take these retailer and the services and the functions of the retailer as your study portions. Thank you.